So my practice is very interdisciplinary. It's a lot of titles: artist, designer, researcher, but I thought I'd dig into that a little bit. So essentially, I blend all of these processes together to come out with artifacts that use historical references as a starting point. And collections were something that relatively new to my practice. I actually didn't grow up with an academic background. I hadn't had much access to collections, but essentially I engage with the historical craft and then I blend it and move it forward. So it's a process-oriented outcome. So this is some work that is used silvering, which is a 16th century process as well. And I work with a craftsperson that's based in Melbourne named Luke Price. And so essentially my process starts with looking at the process. I have no endpoint in sight, and I just sort of follow instinctively where that historical craft might be evolved to. So it's a circular loop, my practice. It starts with this critical viewpoint, which is research and experimentation, which then fuels the commercial part of my practice and inspires productions, exhibitions and commissions that then in turn funds the critical side. So this is my friend Sam, and he actually presents and does workshops here at the Rare Trade Centre. And he's really the person that inspired me to start to dig into armour work processes. He is an incredible armour maker and just a really beautiful person. And so together in 2022, we collaborated on this piece. There's a couple of other additional pieces that we worked on, but this was the main one. So this is where I really first started working out how I could integrate techniques from armour work in my process. So the cabinet has details that integrate. And then from there, I used that to start looking at getting a research fellowship. So I applied to the International Specialised Skills Institute, and I was thankfully awarded that. And that was where I began really nerding out on armour. Before I left actually on my fellowship, I spent a lot of time looking at collections online. There's some incredible resources nowadays, particularly with 3D rendering skills that some of these places have. So I did a lot of research into what collections I wanted to see and visit. So my fellowship journey was 23 locations in the end. There was a few extra that were added on as I started on my trip, but it started at the Wallace Collection in London and ended at a castle in the Italian Alps, so it was very idyllic. This is me actually on the first day of my fellowship, and I was quietly freaking out at this point because I hadn't actually physically held any artifacts of this kind, and I realized that I had no idea what I was doing. So I went home that night and I broke down my process into 5 categories to help myself figure out how I was going to tackle all of this research. There's so much that you can see. So there's incredible amount of detail and really understanding the dimension of things, and all of, lots of stuff. But then the other thing that collections really offered me was I got to visit the places that these artifacts were housed, but also were made, and then really understand the people that had commissioned them and the cultures and all of the society that evolved around those particular crafts. Touch and feel was a really important part of the collection research as well. There's so much that you can't observe from just a static image. A lot of these pieces articulate. There's lots of really fine closure mechanisms, and every single suit of armour was individually made for that person and for their specific desires. So there's just an absolute plethora of individuality and difference there. Direct examination, part of that as well, was just incredibly important to me. So the other thing that I got to do was visit this guy, wonderful Fred Ryle. He's a modern day armour maker, much like Sam, but he spends his time making a lot of full suits of armours. He's very, very busy for people who are modern collectors, or a lot of historians who are wanting to commission a suit that then they can reenact a particular battle. And it's only really after I visited all of the collections and I saw the process and the tools and the design process and then the final artifacts that you really start to piece together all of these different ways of working. So how I integrated that into my work is I started with quite a posing inspiration point. So I was inspired by flowers and the wings of moths. And then I used play and experimentation to then integrate into my research learnings to come out with a lamp. So this is the Wallace lamp, which I named after the Wallace collection, the place that totally freaked me out. And it uses 6 petal-like plates that are connected with rivets. And then this piece, actually I've got a bit of a full circle moment that's coming up soon. I'm showing this piece in Italy later this year at the Salone di Mobile, which is a design exhibition. And then I'm currently working on a large body of work, which I'm calling the Garniture Collection, which is built out from all of these armour techniques that I've seen. Yeah. Thank you.